Hello and welcome back to iRacing. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be doing a track guide of the Watkins Glen circuit. This week's IMSA Sports Car Challenge, week 11, is around Watkins Glen and the boot configuration. I'm going to be using the Audi R8 to talk through how I personally approach this track. I'm sure there are thousands and thousands of guys and girls that can go a lot quicker than I can around this circuit, but this is how I personally take it. There is a video that's on its way and should be available by the time this one goes up anyway, of my race this week. To be fair, I was pretty happy with it. There's definitely ways that I could go faster, but this is currently where I sort of see my skill level and where I'm at this moment in time. Okay, so we'll get started. I've got us here now just on the start finish straight, with the start finish line just underneath us. Let's go and get the car started. Okay, so on the start finish straight, what we're going to be really wanting to do is make sure that you're staying over to the left hand side of the circuit. You're coming through here by this point in top gear in the Audi, it's 6th gear, and what I use as my braking marker is halfway between the 200 and the 100 boards here, about here, just as the track colour changes. I don't really be able to see that still outside now, but just as the track colour changes, maybe we'll see there, I want to be braking just a little bit before that. So we're going to be coming down from 6th gear into 3rd gear, keeping the car out to the left at first, and then on the inside curb, as you can see there, just as it starts to go, there is a bit of a camber to the corner. You want to be turning across and taking about 3/4 of the car over that curb. You want to get on the power early, and you can use quite a lot of this runoff area over here. You could potentially even go a little bit wider than that, but this is generally sort of the area that I would want to be in. You can see that there's still we're completely over to the left hand side of that curb, and then there is a little bit where the curb dies off here, and where you can find yourself coming back onto the track and feed yourself on. You can take a little bit of that grass if you need to, but don't take too much, otherwise you will find yourself with a 1X. Also, if I just head back, what you don't want to be doing as well is, if you do take some of this curb, or take out the curb by going straight across it, it doesn't look it necessarily on here, but it is quite a bumpy curb, so you really want to, if you are on the left hand side of the curb, you want to make sure that you're using that gap to come back on, because if you're coming back across and you try to hit the curbs here, it can unsettle the car at higher speed. So make sure you're coming through from that left hand side there, where the cutout is. From the point where you're on the accelerator coming out of turn 1, what you want to make sure that you're doing though is getting the car rotated. Like I say, run out wide, but you want to keep your foot flat on the accelerator from that point, and you don't really want to take your foot off the accelerator once you've got the car stabilised, but you don't want to be taking your foot off the accelerator now right up until the point where you get to the braking zone for the boot. So I would be coming across from here, and again you want to really ride the inside curb here. There's a small amount of a camber to this, but where the yellow line starts here, I want to be on the curb, staying a little bit to the right hand side here, and then feeding it back across, taking some of the inside curb, and again positioning from the middle of the track. Not too much of that curb, but there's a bit there if you need to, and then you want to be back over onto the left hand side. This is a tricky section, catches a lot of people out in the race. What I use for my braking marker, so I'm over on the left hand side, but just before this 300 board, about here is where I would be braking. You've been flat on the accelerator since you've come out of turn 1, so as you can imagine, by this point you are absolutely pinned in 6th gear. So we're coming from 6th gear, we're going to be coming down into 4th gear to try and get through this next corner. So you're hard on the brakes at this point. The turning point I would pick is a little bit afterwards, so braking in a straight line up until just after the 200 board, and then on the inside of this curb here, you can actually take quite a lot of this curb. So you want to stay on the grey white painted area, but I would take quite a lot of this curb. It isn't too bumpy, it is a little bit bumpy, but and then as you've taken quite a chunk of that curb, if you go any further over than that, you are going to find yourself getting another 1x. So what I use from here though is as I've come through, I do have a little dab on the brakes as I come to take this inside curb here, and I do a small little dab on the brakes that just helps me just load the front up a tiny amount so that I can then get in. I do take it gentle on the throttle in between the middle part here of the bus stop. I think I was calling this the boot, wasn't I? Yeah. So this is the bus stop, and I lift off a little part just to help me keep the speed under control. I don't use any more brake other than that little dab, but then once I've got to here again, you can really start to use and make the most of this curb. And then also the inside of that curb as well. It's a challenge, but you really want to try and get over to the left hand side once you've come out of the bus stop. Stay out left and try and apex this about here is where you want to be hitting it. So about 3/4 of the way around the track, that's where you want to really or the way around the corner, you want to start hitting that, getting close to that apex there. Again, try not to. I don't personally try to use too much of the curb on the inside, just because it can unsettle the car quite a bit, and you do want it to be. You do need to have that confidence in the car to help really build that exit speed up. So once I've clipped the apex on the inside here, I'm full. By this point now, I'm fully pinned back onto the accelerator, and really want to use that momentum and let the car run as wide out here as you can up onto this curb. You're not going to get a 1x for being this far over, and then I end up on this curb and coming back across again just where the grass is, and that allows me then to just try and maximise the amount of exit speed that I've got from the previous corner. Positioning ourselves, as you can see, we want to be over on the right hand side. Now this corner is a tricky one, because there isn't, I can't see anything in terms of barriers or anything that's a definite, this is the braking point for me, so it is quite a bit of gut feel. But I normally try to brake, and like I say, I'm sure there are stacks of people and videos on YouTube of people braking significantly later from this, but the track does change colour, so you can see it's just about to change colour just in front of me there. The shadow just sort of masks it a little bit, but I want to be braking really from down into 3rd gear from here. So I want to be sort of 50% on the throttle, keep the weight over the nose by just trail braking into this corner. But I'm coming into this, and I want to be hitting coming around here in 3rd gear. I try to stay as wide as I can for the start of this corner, and then do a late apex, which just helps me punch out the speed on the other side. So I would be coming around, apex this as late as you can, and then on the throttle again to really try and maximise the usage of this curb on the outside. There isn't a huge curb, but you want to be sort of around here, so you're definitely getting your right wheels onto it. Don't go too much further over, otherwise you will find yourself being thrown around a little bit, and I have in practice lost it by running the right hand wheels onto that grassed area there. So from here we're going to be continuing to accelerate. I think we'll probably get up to about 5th gear, and you want to be heading back over onto the left hand side, and what I use for my braking point is just before this 100 board on the left hand side. From here I brake, I go down into third, but I'm trying to stay as far left as possible. at first, and I do again try similar on the to the previous corner. Try to hit a late apex on this corner. Now this corner it is tough because it is blind when you're taking the line that I'm taking here, and quite a few people seem to take in the race as well. You because you can't on a single screen, certainly anyway, which is what I use. You can't see the apex for the corner, but what is handy is if you can see here the black line right in the middle of the circuit. Now that black line, it actually splits off and goes into a separate black line, but that's what I use for the understanding where it is, where's my turn in, and where the corner is going to eventually feed back onto my screen. So the way that I would do it, I'd be in third gear from here. I want to hit a late apex, and like I say, pick up that black line. And if you can see, when it comes round now, that black line continues to follow around, so you know where you can see, and that black line gets the apex and also helps you, and it feeds back out as well. It's obviously where they've re-tarmacked a very heavy used area of the track, but yeah, you want to feed out to the side. Stay left because you've got a hairpin right in a second. So as we head down now, we're staying left, and my braking points I pick between the 100 and the 200 boards. I'd say around here. I gear down in two phases on here, so at first I go into third, and this corner again, it's got the handy little black line to help us as well. You can see the black line's just there on the right hand side now. But so I start off in third, and by the time I get to here where I'm onto this other lighter tarmac or cement, whatever it is, concrete, that's where I would go into second gear from here. For me, it just helps me just not get unstable on the way into the corner. But again, you can bring it across, use that black line to help you understand where the corner is going to be coming in, onto the apex, and from about here, this is where you really want to be using as much of the throttle as you possibly can to feed the car out to the left hand side of the track. Again, run your wheels onto the left hand side, onto the curb. No danger of a 1x there, but don't go too far over, otherwise you're going to end up picking up an incident point. Pardon me. Okay, so coming now towards the final section of the track, so again we want to be picking it up. I would normally be coming up here in either third or fourth, depending. And again, a late apex, we've got the handy little black lines, so we know where we're at now with these. I drop it to second, again just before turning for the corner. Here's the black line. It helps you just understand the corner, where the corner's coming in a little bit earlier. And second gear round. Try and run as wide as you can, but then barriers do come up fast on the right hand side, so just be careful. Now this is a really good part of the track. I enjoy this part. So by the time we come up here, I'm normally coming up to this corner in fourth gear, staying as far to the right, and there isn't going to be any braking on this corner. What we're going to do is we're going to do a small amount of a lift and trust that the car is going to help us carry through. So again, I try to just get over the white line as much as possible, just to open the corner up, but at speed it is sometimes hard to judge. And then just around the 100, that's where I want to start making sure that I'm turning in. There's a lift on the throttle, follow the light part of the concrete, and then once you've got to about this bit where you can see the curb just juts out a little bit, I want to make sure that I'm fully or heading towards full throttle. Run the car wide. Again, use the curb on the exit. Sometimes, depending on where I'm up to, sometimes I pinch fifth between these two corners, but normally I'd stick it in fourth, and that doesn't change up until the last corner either. And again, you just want to help slow the car down a little bit here, so you're running off to the left hand side. About 50% braking power is where I would normally be. And again, pick up the lighter colour of the concrete. It's quite a nice little guide to feed in, and also where you can see that it feeds out for the corner as well. Out to the left hand side now. Use some of the, you could probably use a bit more of that curb and get on the throttle a bit earlier, but I haven't got the cojones for that right now. And then back up through the gears, staying on the left hand side, and that is a lap of Watkins Glen and how I would approach it. What we'll do now then, I'll head into practice. I'll put a bit of a lighter fuel load in, and we'll see what time we can get, and we'll show you what I say is a hot lap, my personal sort of fastest laps. Okay.
You're in pole.
Well, I hope that helps. If it helps just one person, then I'm happy with that. As you could see from the qualifying lap that I showed up on there, then it was a 146.323, so I was happy with that. It set me up for a good race in a tough 1.8k. Feel free to drop any comments that you've got, any feedback. Hit the like button if you did like the video, and subscribe if you'd like to see more of my content coming up. Have a great day. See ya.